What's up, guys? It's your boy, Radical. Now, my workout plans have been a success. More than 300 plus purchases and many more returning customers. You cannot ask for anything else, and people are loving it. The same life-changing and affordable prices still remain. So go to radicallatino.com and change your life today. Hey guys, do you have a product you want more eyes on? Advertise with the Radical Latino Show, where over 10K podcast downloads and the number 25 spot on the 55 All Latin podcast list. You'll want your product heard on everyone's phones and cars. Go to radicallatino.com/contacts and start advertising today.
Playing the Radical Latino Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands in the air for New York's very own.
Radical.
Latino is taking you to another level.
I think there's more radicals than civil. Radical Latino, no buffing it. The radical point of views, I think his views are actually more dangerous.
Yeah, what up, my people? It's your boy, Radical, aka number 17 on all Latin podcasts, aka number 24 on all Bronx podcast influencer list, and also Mr. Unsuable for 90, that's 90 weeks, running What Is Going On. I hope everybody is doing great. I also have my boy with me from Rasa Stan. What's going on, Flo? What's up, bro?
What up, Rad? Definitely glad to be here. Been tuning into your channel for a minute now, and I'm glad that you have me as a guest today. So looking forward to having this conversation.
Yeah. And I definitely I needed you as a guest today because of the topic at hand and stuff, because you are more knowledgeable, on this, because you just did some recent research or whatever. But let the people know who you are, and also that you got a podcast. It's called Asa Stan. Tell the people about yourself a little bit.
All right, so I go by Flo. Got this name a long time ago, actually. I used to perform in hip hop, so that's how I got the name. And then after that, I just kind of kept it. But my podcast essentially is challenging narratives. It's intended to heal people through brutal honesty, So sometimes I say things that people don't like, but at the end of the day, it's all with good intentions. So yeah, I've been doing this now for about a year, I think, something like that. So yeah,
that's what's up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, I don't have my camera on because of other things that happen behind the scenes right now. So you're gonna be seeing a Flo's beautiful shiny face. You know what I mean? So but the thing it is, let me give you guys some updates right quick on everything. First of all, the filming is still happening. The documentary Open Wounds at Island Divided, that is still happening. The thing is, I'm running into some issues with getting people's basically schedule all together. Some professors have certain schedules that I have to work around, and also they have certain meeting places that they have to work around when it comes to me. So that's still happening. Also, if you guys want some more, up to date, things that I'm not going to be putting on social media, just on the website, go to officialopenwoundsmovie.com, and you guys are going to get up to date. The filming is still happening. It's still, currently, it's in the process. But mind you, this is only part 2 because I'm doing everything. Best believe part 3 is not going to take this long, or part 4. So definitely just be patient with me, guys. I'm basically running this whole thing out of a garage. So just hold on. Also, the podcast is going to move until I say so. But the podcast might be every 2 weeks, depending on how busy I am with filming, how busy I am with traveling and stuff. The podcast might move into every 2 weeks. Just stay tuned to my social media, radical_Latino_ on my Twitter, and also on my Instagram. I will make a formal announcement. But right now, I might be planning it that way because I got a lot of things going on. And also, number 3, there's been a couple of comments that I have to address. And before I address those type of comments, I'm gonna make an announcement real quick. When I started the podcast, my podcast, I started it to go against white supremacy, right? And one of the initial things that I did when I started my podcast and going against white supremacy was calling out the Latino community, right? Some people on my group, on my community, saw that as something that I shouldn't be doing, something I shouldn't be calling out. Other folks saw that as, okay, that's good that you're calling it out. I'm gonna rock with you, right? But now there's a little bit of a double-edged sword here, because the people that didn't want me to call out our own community on their little BS, little fuckery and stuff like that, those are the people I could care less about, and those are the people I don't even want around me. You know, those are the type of people, those are the Chivos, the Ranchos of the world. I could care less about them. But the other the other side, where they constantly think or want me to just go after no, that's not gonna happen, right? Because every community, it's not a saving grace. Every community isn't just end all be all. There's nothing bad with it. No. For a long time, Latinos have been attacked, have been made a mockery of, have been put down in the boots of, you guys shut up because you guys are a bunch of immigrants, which is not necessarily true. Bunch of immigrants, and you guys will be last. In literally everything, in political arenas, in social classes, we are being attacked. I believe a little bit more so now. So the fact that I've taken a step back and actually started defending my own community, my own set of people, but also holding them accountable on some of the fuckery, but also defending them, saying, no, this is not going to happen, and correcting some of the anti-Latino rhetoric, I'm getting some hate for that. And the way I see it is, I see it as basically hypocrisy. The way I see it is that you cannot shame me for helping for correcting other people's, how can I say this, ignorance on my community, but also praise me in the same time for calling my community out. You know what I'm saying? What do you got to say on this, Flo? What do you think?
Like I said, I mean, I've been seeing your content for a while, and I think your early content definitely focused on calling out the more specifically anti-Black rhetoric in the Latino community.
Yeah.
And I think you got a lot of, criticism for that too. I mean, and now that you're speaking up against, some of the stuff that's going on with us, our community, you're getting hate for that as well, like you said, right? I think when you're somebody who is going to put yourself out there and is going to say things that are going to shake walls or ruffle feathers, people are going to give you their opinion. I had a similar situation with the last video I posted on my platform. I talked about Europeans and diseases, and I got so much hate for that, right?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because the previous video that I did didn't get as much traffic. So whenever you say things that are controversial, you're going to get people that are going to disagree with you, which I understand. I mean, I get it, but at the same time, it does kind of suck that you feel like you're doing the right thing and then you still get hated for it,
Exactly. And the thing is, I'm not trying to make this a whole Latino versus Black type of issue. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to make it like that. Again, my stance has not changed. Black and brown unity, I'm not changing that. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because some of these individuals do not represent the whole Black community, and also some of these Latino, bozos do not represent the whole Latin community. So I want to make that very clear. But the fact that for recently, some of the videos I've been making, that debate that I really don't even consider the debate. It was basically a screaming match. Some of those type of things, I'm seeing some of my retractors actually come back to me telling me that, oh, now you see what we were talking about this whole time. And I'm like, no. You guys were on some racist stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You guys were on some hate stuff. All I'm doing is calling out the hypocrisy, and I'm also correcting the anti-Latino rhetoric. For example, in Dominican Republic, there was, I don't know if you see my video, but there was a lady that went to Dominican Republic and she started calling Dominicans racist.
Yes, I did see that one.
Okay. And the thing is, there was a lot of comments talking about, and just for the people who might not know, she went to the Dominican Republic and she was like, oh, it was beautiful. She ran into a small protest and she wanted to know what the protest about. The protest was about Haitian immigration, how they don't want Haitians to come into the country because they steal the jobs and stuff. And she said it verbatim. I understand, because we have the same thing in America with Mexicans coming in, blah, 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 right? Mm-hmm. So, with that statement being said, that means you know and you understand that you're against immigration, and that means the whole rhetoric of being racist should be out the window. Now, because she got accosted, and then obviously wrongfully so, but she got accosted, and then she just, because they thought that she was a Haitian, and then they found out she was American. Mm-hmm. That's when she just said, oh no, because now she got accosted, she believes that's racist. Mm-hmm. And my thing is, you can't have both. Mm-hmm. You can't have both. You can't be anti-immigrant, and then when you get profiled, that's when you start saying, oh no, this is racist. You can't have both. Mm-hmm. It's like saying now, for some of the people for some of the black folks who are against immigration, it's like saying now, oh yeah, we built this country, go back home, blah 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 blah. And then when immigration confuses you for a Haitian or African, and then you go like, oh, wait a minute, that's racist. No. You can't do. You can't have both.
Yes,
you cannot have both. So that was my whole point. And you would see some of the comments is like, you know what she was talking about. Wow, you changed this and this. And I'm like, hey, yo. I'm like, no, I'm calling out hypocrisy. If you guys don't see the hypocrisy, then you shouldn't even be here. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's true. Like I said, I mean, when you start to speak truth, and that's the thing about our platforms is that people think we're necessarily taking a specific side. But I mean, at least for myself, I'm trying to be as truthful as possible. Every time I post something, every time I talk about a topic, I'm not necessarily taking any sides. I'm taking the side of truth. And sometimes the truth offends people, So in that situation where you talked about it, I think also what the woman doesn't understand is that the Dominican Republic and Haiti have a very complicated history, because I know that when Haiti became independent, right, they took over the island, the entire island. So there's a lot of rivalry between those two countries. And, just to come in there as a African American or Black American and say, oh, they're being racist, is not that. There's a lot of tension between both of the countries. And if she understood that, she would have known why, she got, I guess profiled or whatever, So, so that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, and mind you, the way I'm going about these whole, correcting or, going against anti-Latino rhetoric, the way I'm going about it, first of all, I'm going respectful. Mm-hmm. I'm not calling nobody no names. I'm not doing that, because one, that's going to take away from my message.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And and also, a real man knows how to communicate verbally without all that other, nonsense. Yes. I'm not a Chivo, I'm not a Rancho that goes within 2 seconds start calling a black person the N-word. Mm-hmm. No. And also that for some of the racists that like to use that word like as a okay, I'm done with this conversation, N-word. Mm-hmm. That's like your last basically grandstand. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yes.
okay, don't you think you should do that towards the end? You know what I'm saying?
Wait.
Instead of like in the middle of it, that makes no sense. Like you literally just lost the whole argument.
Basically, right? You're saying you lost the argument when you say that. Yep.
Exactly. So what's the point? And the thing of how certain people was calling me, wow, I thought you wasn't racist, and I'm like, just because I'm calling certain people out doesn't make me racist.
Interesting.
But if you see me like that, that's on you, dog. Do whatever you want to do. I could care less. You know what I mean? But anyway, so I want to talk real quick about your oh wait before I say anything, have you seen the Rescue Rangers movie?
I have not.
Have you seen the Roger Rabbit movie?
There's a new one or what?
No, the old one. Mm-hmm. Basically, it's basically like a homage to Roger Rabbit. Basically, that movie Roger Rabbit, dude, the Ranger dude is actually pretty funny. I thought it was like a little kid movie. No, they had like both. It's like very adult, but also for nostalgic, people, and also for little kids. You know what I'm saying? It's actually really funny. It's really, so I recommend you guys watch the Rescue Rangers.
Well, even Roger Rabbit was not really a kid movie if you think about it.
That's true. It was
and
very adult.
Kid, Yeah.
It was very adult.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So we're gonna go to the first topic of Twitter being exposed. So for people who might not know, Twitter got exposed a couple of weeks ago, right? Talking about their anti-free speech. They're pretty much like a dictatorship and blah 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 blah, so on and so forth, right? And the reason why it came out because a current employee, a senior engineer on Twitter, was recorded by a reporter on his take. So we're gonna actually take a look now.
Twitter does not
What do you mean? Let me repeat that real quick. All right, so you can see it, right?
Yes.
All right, here it goes.
Twitter does not free speech.
What do you mean?
Free speech. Capitalists. If we weren't really operating in a capitalist mode, we were very socialist. Like we're all like communist. Ideologically, it does not make sense. Like because we're actually censoring the right, not the left. Because everyone on the right wing will be like, "Bro, it's okay to say, just gotta tolerate it." The left would be like, "No, I'm not gonna tolerate it. I need it censored, or else I'm not going to be in the country." So it does help, right? It's true. There is bias.
I don't know if the two parties can truly coexist on one platform.
What do your colleagues say about it? Like,
they hate it. Oh my god, I'm at least like okay with it, but some of my colleagues are like super left.
what do they say?
They're like, this will be my last day if it happens. So,
Has much changed since like Elon's coming out?
a lot has changed. A lot has changed. We're all like worried for our jobs.
Why are you guys so worried?
Jobs are at stake. He's like,
I started working for Twitter and became left. I think it's just like the environment. Like you're there and you become like calm.
We did all we could to like revolt against it. A lot of employees revolted against it, but at the end of the day, board of directors have a say, and then they acted on their best interest because they didn't want to get sued. I basically went to work like 4 hours a week last quarter. That's just how it works for a company.
Yeah. How would you describe communism besides Twitter?
Essentially, like everyone gets to do whatever they want. No one really cares about like OpEx, like capitalism. They care about numbers. They care about like how to make the business more efficient. But in Twitter, it's like mental health is everything. Like if you're not feeling it, you can take a few days off. People take months off, they'll come back, but you always like do your best at any time, and that's the culture. And we'll run the business as much as possible.
So I'm just gonna stop it right there. This was kind of, kind of crazy when it actually came out. Let me just put us back in. So it was kind of crazy when it came out, and some of the things that was actually said on that, a lot of people pretty much already knew.
Yes.
But also, it was very eye-opening how somebody from the inside actually is pretty much speaking out, saying, "No, this is actually a real thing." Before I say anything, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, like I said, I think this is something that everybody already knew. Uh, Pretty much anyone who is associated with anything that's right wing usually gets banned on Twitter. I mean, look at what happened to Trump. As much as people hate Trump, I mean,
Yeah.
he had a lot of funny tweets, you know. But even if you're not like super left, even if you're like more moderate too, I mean, anything that challenges a narrative, right? Anything that challenges what's popular today is probably going to get banned on Twitter, or at least before Elon Musk came into the picture. So I mean, whatever he's saying obviously is true, and everyone's been saying it, but again, it takes something like this to expose it, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, and my thing is, what really hit me was him saying two parties can't coexist in a single platform, which I really don't believe that. I think two parties can coexist. The way I've seen it is that the right is a little bit more extreme with their point of views.
Yes.
And the left, I'm sorry to say, is very okay. I'll clean it
Man,
up.
so they can actually say
It's very sensitive with a lot. With
Yep.
a lot. Basically, they're catching a fit almost every other day. You know what I mean? Like, oh my god, I can't believe it. No, relax.
Yes.
So I understand. I understand. Like me, I'm very middle. I'm very middle, and a lot. I will probably say I'm a little bit more libertarian.
Same here.
It's some of my beliefs. You know what I mean? Because I don't want government oversight on everything. You know what I mean? I'm extremely Second Amendment. But also I feel like women should also have their choice to choose, what goes on in their bodies. If they want to have the little, abort, you know what I'm saying? If they want to have that or whatever, let them do that. I shouldn't be saying anything. So a lot of people would say, and I would say that I'm a little bit more libertarian than anything else. And the thing is that I've even seen some of these social media platforms outside of Twitter be very, very left leaning.
Oh yeah.
And some of the things that I don't understand. Why would you think some people would side with the extreme versions of the left, in your opinion?
Well, I think it comes down to power, right? I did a whole video on hierarchies and how, the left is essentially fighting for power. They've been doing it for years, right? There's always a struggle between the left and right. And right now, I think the left has an upper hand in a lot of things, like you say, especially in social media and in TV, and so there's going to be this constant fight. And these individuals who are left leaning, right? They say they're fighting for equality, but they're not fighting for equality. They're fighting for power, but they're just not going to say that, right? It's because if you say that, you're going against what you actually believe in, right? Yeah. So at the end of the day, that's why, like you said, we can't tolerate the right, because then they're going to want our power. It comes down to power, and I think if people were more honest about that, then we can have a more honest conversation. But that's why these left, SJWs, I don't really vibe with them, personally, on a personal level. I can have a conversation with them, but as far as believing what they believe, I don't, because like I said, I stand for the truth. And sometimes the truth does not coincide with what they believe in.
Wait a minute. Hold on, Flo. You mean to tell me real women don't have penises? Is that what you're telling me? Is that what you're telling me? Oh, wait a minute. Hold on, brother. Cancel him. Cancel him.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's what it is, and even saying that is controversial. 20 years ago when we were kids, that was not a controversy, right? So
that was pretty much a fact. Right?
Yeah.
We know that men and women are different. You know, I've been told when I was a little kid, you know, don't hit a woman because you're stronger than her, right? We know this.
Yes.
But if I just went and said, you know what, now I'm a woman, it's okay if I beat her up,
Basically,
then basically the law's on my side. Well, actually, it's on nobody's side. They'll just leave me alone because I'm a woman, right? That right there doesn't make any type of sense.
Doesn't
to me. First of all, let me. The thing is, first of all, one of my tweets that got taken down because I was defending Dave Chappelle, right?
Yes.
And I pretty much said I don't see what's transphobic what Dave Chappelle said. Somebody went on a whole tirade of listing point by point what he said was offensive, and everything on that whole thing I found extremely funny and not offensive. So I said, well, the only thing that I will probably see offensive, and this is just me reaching, is the fact that he said gender is real, right?
Yeah.
In their side, okay, I understand, because let's be honest, these people want 200 something somewhat genders, which is insane to me, because outside of a JJ and a ding dong, let me know what other gender that might be. You know what I mean? So outside of that, please let me know. So the thing is, I was like, okay, I understand what you guys are saying, but he is correct. Gender is real. Whatever sexual orientation you believe in, that's on you. But gender is a real thing. You're not born with either or. You know, like, you're not born without it or something new. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense. So I understand that. I understand the whole tolerance thing. I get it. In the end of the day, I could care less.
Yes.
I really could care less what you chop off, what you chop on. It doesn't really matter. You can add free Wi-Fi to one of them boobs. I do not care. I do not care. The only time I really could care less about it, well, I actually could care about it is if it's in sports. That's one. And two, if you physically look like a man and you're telling me that you're a woman and your pronouns are hers and she, I'm gonna be like, yo, he is over there. You know what I'm saying?
You're gonna do that, huh?
I'm not gonna. The thing is, I'm not going. It's not that I won't respect it. I just won't acknowledge it because my mind will just go into default on what they look like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Imagine a DMX looking dude with a wig talking about I'm a woman now. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm like, yeah, no, he is bugging. You know, that's what I'll say, because I'll just go back to default. You know, but my thing is, so my thing got taken down or whatever, and also I got into this like conversation with someone on Instagram of all places, going back and forth, because I said I really don't care about what the left might think or whatever the case is. I could care less about again what some of these people might chop on or chop off. My thing is governing my speech. That's one, but also on the sports. You cannot tell me that someone who basically gained privilege off of their body testosterone for years doing a sport, and then for 2 years suppressing that testosterone, telling me that you're not going to have an advantage. Like, you can't tell me that, because your body's already equipped for that type of sport. You know what I mean? We're not talking about you're going, you know, swimming, and then the next thing you're going to do is football. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about doing the same thing. If you were a runner when you were a male and now you're a female, you're still a runner. And now, when you were a male, you were number 500 in the state. And now that you're a female, you're literally number one. You're smoking these women.
Yes.
Like, do not tell me that does not like that there's no connection towards it. Of course, there's an advantage.
Yes.
Because if there wasn't an advantage, then all these domestic assault things shouldn't be in the books, right?
Yes. Yes. And I mean, and what I would say to that, because I also did a whole video on this too, is I would say that, like I said, 20 years ago, gender and sex were the same thing. Today, they're not, right? According to the SJWs and those on the left, they'll say that gender is how you see yourself in your head, right? So back in the day, this was called gender dysphoria. It was actually a mental health, illness, right? There's people who are so concerned with seeing themselves as the opposite sex that they'll, go and do surgery or whatever, right? So what I said in that video was that, look, like just like you, I don't care how they identify. It doesn't bug me. I mean, as long as they're not trying to govern my speech, like you said, right? And at the end of the day, what I said too is, why does it matter how I see you if in your head you see yourself a certain way? So why should you need my validation?
Exactly. Facts.
Does that mean that you don't see yourself as the way you tell people the world to see you, right? So if I were to come to you, Rad, and say, you got to see me as an American, right? And you're like, well, why would I? I mean, whatever, right? Or maybe I have, because I'm 5% black, you should call me black.
Yeah.
What are you gonna say? No, I mean, like, why does it matter what you have to say, right? At the end of the day, how I identify, you shouldn't impose that on somebody else, is what I said. So,
exactly.
And a lot of these people have, it's not even the gender thing. They have so much trauma from not being acknowledged, maybe as children. Because if you notice, it's most of these folks are Gen Z folks, right? It's not people from our generation or previous ones. It's this new generation that feels entitled and privileged to be told whatever they're told, right? So they have deeper issues than the gender issue, is what I would say.
Yeah, and it goes deeper than that too, because look, when I started my podcast, right, the first thing that they started asking me, what did I identify myself as, and I go like, I'm black, right?
Yeah,
and that's what I was saying, and I've explained that plenty of times of why I've said it. One is because of I believe the one, being more educated now, I believe that the one drop rule is completely stupid. It wasn't it was never a metric for us. It was a metric for white folks. And let's be completely honest, without us speaking about it, these white folks somewhat still follow that one drop rule. Let's keep it honest, right? So that's one. Two, the other reason why I use that is because indigenous people here in the Americas was always declassified between native and black. Sometimes they were black, sometimes they were native, and they would just flip-flop those terms interchangeably with the native folks. So that's why I'll be like, yeah, I'm black. But in reality, I think it was only one. No, I said it actually plenty of times. My real identification, because one, my dad is black and my mom is indigenous. I consider myself an Afro-Indigenous. I always did. And the thing is that a lot of people seem to harp on that little thing and go like, "Oh, well, you say that." I'm like, I'm not saying that I'm an African American or I look African. I never said that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But you gotta understand where I come from, and on top of that, my background. When I come from a black person and an indigenous person, what you think I'm gonna be saying? You know what I mean? So I understand that, but I'm not over here talking about, I was born by two moms. You know what I'm saying? and then just saying out of nowhere, my dad got pregnant. No, whoa, wait, what? How is that even possible? So I understand, like, because it does go deep. It does go deep, and I think certain people who are biracial, multiracial, will want to identify either with one or multiple, right? And some people might not understand that, so I get it. But when it comes to other people, for example, the transgender issue, you see leftists defending it defending it to the point of basically taking science and slapping it in the face.
Exactly.
So telling me that a man can get pregnant. I'm like, no, that's not a thing. That is not a thing. Well, don't get me wrong. I have seen some bitchy men, but I'm like, that's not a thing. You know what I mean? Because one thing that I would agree with you on is let's talk about the whole how you just said a mental issue, right?
Mhm.
Let's just talk about that for 1 second. There's a mental condition right now of basically, how can I say, paralyzing yourself.
Yes.
There's literally, for those who might not know, there's literally a mental disorder of paralyzing yourself because inside your mind you believe that you need to be either paralyzed, handicapped for some reason. There was a story of a woman blinding herself because she believed that she needed to be blind. You know, and I think she went as far as to pour, was it Clorox or acid? It was
Jesus.
something. She went as far as to pour Clorox or acid or something like that into her eyes, and
Oh man.
the way I see it is, staple your eyes shut. Like, is that so hard? But my thing is, that's they consider that a mental disorder. There's people that went along to, like, I believe the Philippines, just to pay a surgeon to cut their leg off because they believe they need to be without a leg, and they go and do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a mental disorder. Now let me go into the future, and you're gonna tell me now that real people don't have legs. Don't
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like that. I don't know. It might be a reach. I might not be connecting it, but what do you think?
I think the next one's going to be race. People are going to be able to identify with whatever race they want, especially white folks. And if you think about it, it's white liberals who are the ones pushing these narratives too.
That's true.
You know, and
That's
one thing
true.
that I'm going to say that's pretty controversial, you know, especially with our men, you know, brown and black men. I think it's done on purpose to emasculate brown and black men, because that's how you dominate a culture. You know.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Because, yeah, you're right. Because if everybody's not white, then in their mind, what are you arguing about?
Exactly.
Oh shit! Yo, we should all be white now. No, let me stop. No, that's actually that. Yeah, and that's the thing. And this is the thing. The buffoonery of some of these people, you know, that want to basically control every little aspect of what you should say and how you should say it, or whatever the case is. And I believe that you're right. The next thing will be race. And in my mind, it's like, okay, real quick. When I was getting my business loan, I went to get a minority business loan from the federal government, right?
Okay.
Part of applying was, you know, going online, but also showing up in person. Best believe when I showed up in person, there was nothing but white folks up in there with little feathers on their head, talking about their 1/8 Cherokee.
Of course.
And I sat next to one of them, and I was like, you're minority? He looked at me, he was like, I'm a 1/8 4th Navajo. I'm like, oh okay, brother. All right, cool. I'm like, all right, it seemed like you missed the sun for a couple of years, but all right, cool. And this dude was saying it with a straight face, with a feather on his head. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I understand people trying to get an advantage whenever they can. I get it.
Yep.
But it's to a point where it gets ridiculous.
It is.
You know, now in New York City, they're having residential buildings just for gay and transgender people. And on top of that, they're getting benefits for that. For example, they're getting, I believe every month they get $300 in food stamps or whatever the case is.
Yes.
The way I see it is, if you're going through hard times, pretend to be gay. They're not gonna be like,
Basically.
they're not gonna be like, all right, kiss the dude right now. You know
Right now, prove it, right?
It's like, prove it right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But hey, if I'm going through hard times, right, and the government is giving LGBT, hey, like you better put on some tutus and some high heels and be like, let's go, yo. I'm
Or
getting
just
some.
identify as a woman. You know what I mean? That's all you can do right now. Just identify as a woman.
Exactly. And in California, it's actually pretty easy. There was a dude that actually did it as a joke. He was like, I want to see how easy this is. Literally, it's one page, a 2-paragraph form.
Wow.
You go, give your birth certificate with your social. You change your sex, and within 2 weeks, your new ID is in the mail. And it gives. So on the card, on the ID, where it says sex, it has a little asterisk on top.
Oh, okay.
So now this is the thing. They let you know exactly. They in that form they go like, you are now abide by every like law under that sex. Meaning, if you get arrested, you will be placed in the female type of facility. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I believe that some of these social medias out there who want to, pretty much show some of the dominance on speech, they have a fine line. I believe YouTube might be the only one where they're pretty fair with both sides. But I know for a fact TikTok is extremely left-leaning. Extremely left-leaning. So I understand that equality for all, but it gets to a point where it gets extremely ridiculous.
Well, it's no longer equality. It becomes a power trip. People get power and they don't let go of it.
Exactly. And the thing is, right now, people are probably like saying, "Radical, you're against racism. How can you go against? The thing is, yeah, I'm against racism, but the thing is, I'm not going to be like, okay, I'm against racism, and you having a penis makes you a woman. I'm not gonna do that. That's stupid. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't make sense.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But with that being said, let's go to our main topic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Mexicans or Mexico helping slaves escape. Now, I reached out to Flo because I saw this in his stories on Instagram where he he put out a video on YouTube. I said, okay, let me go check it out. And I was pretty much I'm gonna say I was pretty much like not only surprised but also very empowered by hearing that, because I didn't know that Mexico played a huge part during this during the Underground Railroad during those times. And I recently was sent a clip of a certain individual, I'm not even going to say their name, they were discussing or talking to another fellow Latino, and this Latino individual said, well, you do know that, this individual said, what has Latinos done historically to help out Black Americans? And he said, well, I'm Mexican, and Mexico helped Black folks escape slavery.
Yes.
And the mental gymnastics that this individual did in order to say that was wrong, historically he was not accurate, but the mental gymnastics that he had to go through and the mental gymnastics that he had to say in order for him not to, in other words, just admit that, okay, that is actually true, this is a fact, was appalling to me. Wow. Even some of the fellow callers that came in and said, yeah, I agree with you, but you're wrong on that. Mexicans did help out. He cut them off.
I believe it.
He just cut them off. So I'm going to go, before we go on to say, I'm going to just say one thing. Latinos for a long time, again, like I said in the beginning, I'm gonna say it now, we've been shut out of history. For Latinos, we have been given the rug pulled under us when it comes to history. We've not been told literally half of the amazing things that we have done. And the thing is that the more we keep on listening to some pseudoscience BS, the more we keep on listening to some individuals who are uneducated and just want to have a yelling match.
Mm-hmm.
So if we keep on listening to some individuals with a nice voice but doesn't bring nothing to the table, you're going to be lost.
Mm-hmm.
Even when it comes to myself, critique everything, research everything. The thing when it comes to our history is very complicated. There's a lot of moving parts. I get that. But there is always one road, and that's the truth.
There you go.
Whenever we go into ways of saying, well, you're dismissing what really happened.
Mm-hmm.
That means you have an agenda, and that means I should not be following you. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, like I said, for a long time, Latinos have been under an attack. You know, the majority, and partially is our fault. And I'm going to say that. Partially is our fault. And I'm going to say because when our people die the same way as Black Americans, we don't get the same news coverage.
Nope.
We don't get the same, marches, nor do we get the same hashtags. Partially, like I kept on saying, it's our fault because we don't go out in the streets and actually do this. That's the thing. But also, it's also a media push. The media pushes Black versus white.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they like to push.
Yep.
They don't push, white versus brown. You know what I'm saying? They don't push that. The thing is, I could go into countless times where we could have a one-on-one apples to apples comparison with a famous death in the Black community and a non-famous death in the Latin community dying the same way. And there's literally nothing that is done, said, or even marched at. These cops still come back, and actually, there was a I believe a couple of years ago, there was a cop that came out. He started writing, his text messages got released, but nothing really happened after that. He said, yeah, you might as well just kill a Mexican because nothing will happen with them. They don't have a Mexican Lives Matter.
Wow.
So these people, they know who's being somewhat protected, because Black folks are not being really protected, but socially, Black folks have a lot of power. Let's keep it 1,000. So these people know who's the weak group and who's not. Let's keep it 1,000. Mm-hmm. Asians got a whole hate crime bill. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
A whole hate crime bill. Black folks get their issues heard in the media. Latinos, nothing.
Mm-mm.
Nothing. So this is the reason why having, one, spaces like this, and two, information like this, information that is actually, practical for us to know, is extremely, extremely, extremely important. So with that being said, let's go into this topic. Now, you guys are gonna hear that a president in Mexico was people are gonna deflect and say, well, the president in Mexico who took slavery away was actually Black, and then he was Mexican. No, that makes no sense. Homie was not the president of the United States. He was president of Mexico. There's a reason for that, right? So,
yes.
So homie was Mexican. The fact that he was a Black Mexican has nothing to do with it. You know what I'm saying? Homie was Mexican. He represented the Mexican people. So I just want to get that disclaimer out the way. So anybody that is A darker melanin does not mean that they are Mexican or Latino, fourth or third or fifth. No, that makes no type of sense. So let's get into that. You want to take it off, bro?
Yeah. So I mean, just to give more background information on that. His name was Vicente Guerrero, right? So he was of African descent,
Yeah.
and just like most of Latin America, Mexico had a very large black population. The reason why we don't have that today is because of all the intermixing, right? And obviously, Mexico had a bigger indigenous population than, let's say, Hispaniola or other parts of Latin America, where the native population was pretty much almost replaced by African slaves. So in Mexico, you had that unique experience, right? Where yes, again, you had the African influence in a lot of places, right? Like I said, I'm of African descent through my mother's side. So that's something I'm very, very proud of. But obviously, my phenotype is more indigenous, right?
Yeah.
Funny thing though is that I'm actually more European through my dad's side.
Oh
So,
wow.
yeah, I took one of those tests that you took as well.
Yeah.
But anywho, Mexico when they first fought for independence, they were, looking to abolish slavery back in 1810.
Yeah, because of the French was there, right?
Oh, this is before the French. This is when
okay.
they were fighting off against Spain. So
Got it.
Miguel de Hidalgo, right, was trying to fight for independence. The first initial fight for independence, that was one of the cause, like and slavery, right? So this is back in 1810, right? So the reason why it took them so long is because Mexico had a lot of inner fighting between conservatives and liberals. And once Vicente Guerrero came into office, he was able to propose that. But this was problematic because, Texas at the time was part of Mexico, and they were getting a lot of immigration from the United States. A lot of these folks were bringing in slaves, and that caused a huge controversy. Really, the reason why Texas became independent Mexico was because of slavery.
Yeah, sorry, my bad, bro.
It's all good. It's all good.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, so this idea to abolish slavery came very, very early, and they were persistent with it. The reason why it took them a while, like I said, is because of the constant fighting between the liberals and conservatives in Mexico. As a matter of fact, the very first leader of the new Mexican Empire was a conservative, Criollo, right? Basically, the Spaniard born in Mexico, and initially Central America was part of Mexico. That was part of the empire when it became independent. But when it became a republic, that's when they became their own country. And then again, the fight between conservatives and liberals was on and off all the way up until the French Revolution. The French intervention. In Mexico.
Yeah, and also some escaped slaves decided to actually protect La Frontera, the border.
Yes.
Due to a lot of slaves escaping, to the point where there were so many slaves escaping going to Mexico that a fugitive slave act was enacted.
Yes.
And because of that, slaves that escaped took up arms and was basically protecting the side of Mexico. And at that time, we're talking about Texas was a part of Mexico, California.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So New Mexico, stuff like that. And the thing is that they will fight off the French. They will fight off big armies to protect the freedom that Mexico was giving them. And on top of that, black slaves were not just a part of this army. Mexicans were also a part of this army too.
Yes.
There was a lot of Mexicans that actually fought alongside freed African slaves to protect that freedom that they were getting from Mexico.
Yep.
So we gotta make that perfectly clear.
Yes.
The thing also is that the majority of the Mexican population actually was agreeing with freeing the African slaves. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the Texas at the time was part of the Mexican Republic, and you had Tejanos, what they call themselves, and you had the Texians, the Anglo-Texans, who for a while, they intermingled, they shared the spaces and stuff like that. But it was the more recent immigrants from places like the South that began to basically revolt against the Republic, right? It was because of that, but also, again, the politics in Mexico, the constant changing of presidents and the Constitution, limited the rights of the newcomers, but also the Tejanos as well, right? So this is why you also had some Tejanos, a lot of them who were landowners or had some kind of property, side with the Texians, but all the ones that were working in these plantations, right? The farm workers or whatever, they would side with the slaves because they had gone through the same thing in haciendas, in Latin America or specifically in Mexico. And yes, I mean, it was very common for these workers to sometimes help them escape into Mexico and even at times marry these African slaves as well, right?
Yeah, and for what I've researched, that some of the enslaved Africans, it got to the point where some of them weren't even going to the north. They were just going to the south, and it was pretty commonly known that they use how people would say when you go into the north, you use the North Star. That's how you would get there. Fugitive escaped the slaves would use the line on the sand of chariots going down south. That's how they would navigate to go down south. It went to the point where Mexicans who were going back to Mexico will have African slaves in the back of their chariots. And go through. Europeans ended up finding out this type of thing that happened, and they ended up executing the majority of these people who will be in back of chariots, who will be transporting. It got to the point where Mexico put, I believe, they put out not a memorandum, but they basically said, because they were stopping goods and services from coming through, they basically said, if you're going to continue on doing this, we're going to do the same thing on your side. You know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
and these Europeans were getting goods and services from Mexico to the United States, but they weren't allowing goods and services from the United States to Mexico just because of the free African people that were being protected there. So Mexico had a huge role in the freeing of African slaves. And when it comes to certain individuals, I'm not going to say no names, they like to keep us out of it because they have an anti-Latino agenda.
Yes.
People can say whatever they want. History is going to say something else. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to these type of things, when it comes to this type of history, it's very, very, very important to know, and very important to be aware who you're getting your information from. Again, everything that me and Flo is saying, y'all could just look it up.
Yep.
But continue. Go ahead, Flo.
I mean, and in that video that I posted, if you go to my page, you'll see all the resources and links to all the stuff that I've read. Aside from that, obviously, I am somebody who studied history in college. I teach it, for a living now. So I don't say things just to say them. I do have credibility when I do say them. So, but yeah, everything you said is completely true. And as a matter of fact, the railroad, right, this underground railroad to the south, to Mexico, became a very popular railroad for those states that neared Texas and Mexico, that communities in northern Mexico of basically African people were established. And if you go today to these areas that in Mexico, they're called the Mascogo communities, and the people there obviously intermix with Mexicans, but they still have very very strong African features or black features, and whenever they have, you know, like family reunions or some kind of gathering, they will dress in their old traditional ways that these slaves used to dress. And I think that to me was really, really interesting because not even here in the States do you see that, right? In Mexico, they'll sing in English. They'll sing the songs of freedom that they would sing as they were leaving Texas. And they speak basically nothing but Spanish at this point, but they still know these songs. They were passed down from the grandparents. So it's a beautiful thing that they were able to keep these traditions in Mexico, right?
Yeah, and the thing about it is that we have to know this type of, again, like I said, this type of history. And you know, again, you guys are gonna, if you guys do the research, you guys are gonna see and come across the Black Seminoles. And these are the Black Seminoles who were, first of all, Seminole Indians, and these were tribes that came from Florida, and also these were individuals who intermixed with the native population down in Florida, and those were the ones that were escaping also slavery, and some of them were already escaped. They just wanted to join the fight. The thing is, when the Black Seminoles entered the fight, they entered in the side of Mexico. They sided with Mexico, and it was to a point where the Mexican military was not losing, but they were very, very low on supplies until the Black Seminoles actually came in and actually introduced other weaponry, more supplies, and a different way to fight these European powers. So the Black Seminoles were a huge, huge, huge influence and also part of this type of fight. And again, they sided with the Mexicans. So we have to make that very clear that when it comes to the side of history, you have to pick which side you're in. Hopefully it's the right side. You don't want to be the part of history where you're looked at as the evil person. For example, how some of these old German soldiers are in homes, and if they even say that they were a German soldier, they're going to be looked at a different way. You know what I mean? You better be in the right side of history. The Black Seminoles actually chose the right side of history. Why? Because the Mexicans were showing that they were about this black and brown unity, and they were showing it with their lives. You know, you got anything to say about the Black Seminoles?
I mean, I know enough about, just like what you said. I mean, definitely they would make their way all the way to Mexico, and at times also settle in Mexico. But what I did want to add to this, though, is that I think this specific story is really important because I know that Mexicans, a lot of them have anti-black sentiment, right? I know that we are known for that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. When people think about Mexicans and black relations, usually there is none. I know that in the East Coast it's a little different for you guys. I know that you guys are a little tighter blacks. So I think it's important for both sides to know this because it does bring unity, especially in spaces where there isn't any unity, right? Because obviously for a while there was the whole street vendor thing that, you know, people getting attacked, and a lot of the you know, people who were attacking happened to be black young teenagers. And when it was happening, I was very careful not to post that, not because I didn't think it was important, but I mean, obviously when you post things, you know that sometimes people can get a reaction out of that. So I knew that by posting that, I was going to create more anti-black sentiment. So what I said was that you have to look at this from a different lens, right? So yes, these people happen to be black and they're attacking mainly native people, right? A lot of the folks who do end up being street vendors are native people, like literally from, you know, little native communities in Mexico. That's if you look at it like that, you know, it looks like a racist, you know, it's influenced by racism. But if you look at it from a different perspective, a lot of these kids are out there on the street by themselves. They have no father, right? They have bad influences. Because for someone to do that to an innocent person, you have to have no morals or just or not raised right. And that was the message that I was sending, because again, it's so easy to go into the whole race thing and say, this
Yeah.
is why we don't like blacks. They go
Yeah.
and attack our people, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I think this history, and again, recognizing that the Mexicans have a deep African history too that is hidden for the most part, because the indigenous part of it usually is the one that's highlighted.
Yeah.
And just like other Latinos, the raza, as I like to call it, we're a big mix of all three of these groups. Some of
Yes.
us have more of the other,
I want you to correct something real quick. There's a lot of pseudoscience individuals that don't know nothing about Latino, history, community, or culture, right? But they like to talk like they do, right?
Yes.
There was an individual that told me that when Mexicans say raza, they mean the white raza. And I said, no, they mean Latinos.
What?
Exactly. They mean Latinos. Can you expound on that real quick?
Yeah, so I mean the term raza was something it's actually pretty recent. I think it was invented right after the Mexican Revolution in Mexico by this individual who essentially was saying that we are a mix again of all these groups, right? And that's why Latinos, or in that case specifically Mexicans, have a unique culture, right? I think the reason why people confuse the raza and the whole whiteness thing is because at the time they were trying to do something similar that I guess at least this individual that people in Germany were doing, right? Unifying under one race or whatever, right? So I think a lot of times it gets confused with that. But most people who use the term today, especially in the 1960s in the Chicano movement, it became a term of unity, right? For people that come from all these different countries, speak the same language or have a similar culture, but it definitely does not mean white at all.
Yeah.
I mean, when I use the term raza, I'm not thinking about some white dude or white people. It's the combination. It's the people. It's raza. Like
Yeah.
that's the way I use it.
It means all Latinos, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Basically.
that's all it is. So, my man really tried to have a whole discussion with me. I'm like, you ain't gonna tell me about what the hell I know, all right? So relax. You know what I'm saying? But also about the street vendor thing. I actually agree with you a lot on that, and it was also something that I wanted to say. They asked a individual. I'm not gonna, again, this is a long time ago, but I still remember this. They asked an individual, a black individual. They said, "Hey, what do you have to say about those black people attacking those street vendors?" And this individual basically said, "I got nothing to do with that, and all black people got nothing to do with that. So don't tell me about nothing about that. They shouldn't be doing it, but don't be. I don't represent them, and rightfully so. Shout out to that person, right? But then a couple of weeks later, something happened with some Latino, and he pretty much put all Latinos in one bag, right?
Of course.
Obviously, right? Obviously, right? So my thing is gonna be, if for some of these individuals is gonna come at me or Flo or whatever the case is, talking about what about those Mexican gangs that firebombed? I don't represent them, and they don't represent me.
Yes.
So don't be coming at me on something that I got nothing to do with. That's some gang shit. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is.
Yep.
But that, I just find that very interesting how certain individuals want to separate themselves when it comes to what some of them people do, but then somebody else does something and they just want to lump us all in. It's just very, very funny.
Yeah, and I think that's another reason why, again, here in California, you have a lot of that sentiment from our community that a lot of folks feel like, blacks don't have our back, like you say,
Yeah.
So then they're like, well, then if they don't have my back, then why should I have their back, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I understand that too. I get it. But again, at the end of the day,
but you want to hear something crazy? It's a lot different over here. Usually in the East Coast, it's not like that.
Yeah, I believe
it's
it.
not. I like I said, I grew up around black folks, and I've never had that separation. Now I'm starting to see somewhat of it. But the thing is, in the West Coast, I believe, and I'm gonna tell you, this is my theory. I believe the separation has a lot to do with jail.
I was gonna tell it. It's the exact same thing. Yep.
That's what I believe. I believe that the separation has a lot to do with jail because let's keep it at 1,000. Not socially, but in the street levels, a lot of it is ran, by gangs.
Yep.
And it has a gang culture. So I believe that it has a lot to do with the jail culture because jails, you got to be with your own raza. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that's what I think. What do you think?
It's definitely that for sure. I mean, growing up, I grew up in a mainly Latino community, so we didn't really have a lot of interactions with blacks, and when we did, it was usually negative because of the whole gang culture thing. You know what I mean? Like we used to beef it with blacks, just like a lot of folks, talked about. But it wasn't until I got older that I realized, that that's where it came from, right? Because you're taught, right? And then also, like I told you, out here in LA, a lot of the immigrant population is targeted by a lot of these black folks who are just not all there. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to, so they obviously, they if you're an immigrant new to this country and then that happens to you, you're gonna teach that to your kids. Hey, watch out with these blacks, right? And then for me, I remember the '92 riots. I was about 6 years old, and I remember going to a Toys R Us, coming out of the Toys R Us, and these three black kids came out and took our shit.
Shit.
And that was my first experience with black folks. I remember that.
Shit.
I remember my dad went after them, took the shit back.
Yeah.
And but those kind of things, impact how you grow up. And it's not until you're older that you realize, it has nothing to do with your skin color.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it has everything to do with culture.
Yeah.
And culture is the way you behave, the way what you think, what you believe in, right?
True.
And culture can be changed, by acknowledging that, right? Because if you're into gang culture, you're gonna say, F those people, right? And F that group or whatever. So definitely it's influenced by those two things. The immigrant experience in California, specifically in areas where there is interactions with black folks, but also definitely the gang thing.
Yeah, before we start wrapping it up, you're absolutely right. I grew up not having any ill will with anyone.
Nice.
I grew up having the police treat us all the goddamn same.
Yeah.
That's how I grew up. I grew up seeing white folks, in certain positions, harass and intimidate us. You know what I'm saying? So when it came to that whole division, I've never understood it and never seen it because we all got beat up the same. That's how I saw it. Did I run into some negative sentiments with certain people? Of course. I ran in. There were some Black Americans that were fucked up to me. Of course, there were some Latinos that were fucked up to me. Of course, there were some even Asians that were fucked up to me. Of course, but I'm not. Those were those individuals. I'm not gonna just put it on the whole group because the thing is, when I went back to my hood, it was Black and Latino. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like I just started coming like, oh, those goddamn. But nah, it wasn't even like that. But it's a very interesting how certain people want to pick and choose certain issues or sentiments when it comes to another group. You know what I mean? It's very, very interesting. And the thing is, some people right now are telling me that, oh, now you're finally seeing what we were talking about. It's not that. The thing is that I gotta be one, I gotta be true to myself, and two, I gotta stop the anti-Latino rhetoric. And I think we should all be on that type of time, stopping the anti-Latino rhetoric. If educating isn't being sought after, then stop talking. It is what it is. They want to be ignorant on their own stuff. It is what it is.
Yep.
I'm saying. So before we close it out, Flo, tell them where they can find you.
All right, so you can find me on raza.stan on Instagram. That's where I actually am the most active because I open up my my lives to the community. So if there's ever any topics that you want to share or talk about, I open it up to the community so y'all can jump in and share. I'm a pretty open person. but also on YouTube, obviously, you know, where I post all my historical stuff or political stuff regarding, you know, our community, is Raza Stand Podcast. Obviously on TikTok, Twitter, pretty much everywhere you can find me. It's pretty much the same, you know, username or whatever. But yeah, man, I'm just here to speak about truth, and then hopefully those who listen will take something with it, you know.
Yeah, and Rasa stands, you know, means white stand. No, let me stop. let me stop. No, but yeah, all the links will be down below. But Flo, listen, bro, thank you very much for coming in and giving us your point of view, and also educating us on something that a lot of people didn't know.
Thank you for having me on, Rad.
No problem. I'm gonna catch everybody later. Peace.